Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Global Power Conversation episode in my YouTube channel. And today we are going to talking about tiny nation island, Taiwan. After following the Chinese Civil War, the nationalist government ROC retreated to Taiwan and creating the permanent separation between the communist China and the mainland, the ROC in Taipei. The outbreak of the Korean War prompts the US to deploy Seventh Fleet to the Taiwan Strait, neutralizing the conflict and effectively integrating Taiwan into the US Cold War architecture. The US switches official diplomatic recognition from Taipei to Beijing One China policy, but simultaneously passes the Taiwan Relations Act, which legally mandates the US to provide Taiwan with defensive arms. Taiwan's first direct presidential election triggers the Chinese missile crisis test and US response by deploying two aircraft carrier battle groups, providing its commitment to intervening in a potential conflict. For decades, the US has maintained a policy of a strategic ambiguity to defend Taiwan and not explicitly stating whether it will defend or designed to deter Beijing from attacking while simultaneously deterring Taipei from declaring its national independence. And today, Taiwan always stuck between these superpowers, between Beijing and the United States. And most recently, we see that the one of the most powerful neighboring countries, Japan, also involved to the Taiwan's security issues, and see these tiny island nations part of its national security strategy or a threat coming from Beijing. To unpack all this geopolitical complex around a strategic point of East Asia, I'm joining by Aswin Lin. And Dr. Aswin is a postdoctoral research fellow at the Taiwan Foundation for Democracy and Non-Resident Research Association at the Taiwan Center for Security Studies. Aswin's research interests are strategic and defense studies, and he has published an article recently about the Taiwan, how this tiny nation, Taipei, stack, especially when we come to the defense and budget stack between Washington and Beijing. And welcome, Aswin. Good to have you with us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me for this talk.
And you are in Taipei, and you can closely follow the developments in the region and the implications of Beijing and the United States on the Taipei. I'm going to regarding to these developments, I'm going to ask one of my question. The relationship between Taipei, Washington, and Beijing is often described as the primary hurdle for Taiwan's defense. So, how do you see exactly do these external political forces function to limit specific modernization efforts on the ground?
Okay, so external situation. If we're talking about external situation, there's not many countries in this planet that can have direct cooperation for Taiwanese military modernization. Uh, I will argue that right now it's only the United States. Uh, in the past, there were France, there were the Netherlands, but because Beijing right now, the People's Republic of China right now getting more influential. So right now it's only the United States. But at the same time, because of one China policy, the Americans also have their own limitation. For example, you cannot just simply buy the best items from United States. Like it's very complicated procedure, to be honest. And the US, even though they try their best, but uh, at the same time, across the strait, the Beijing is also like modernizing, and Taiwan like it or not, yeah, it's only the United States right now for now.
Yes, you said simply the Beijing's growing influence, economic, military, and technological power influence the many countries around the world. Even maybe influence the strategies of the United States.
Because right now we live in very different world than in the during the Cold War time. So we have this supply chain, like globalized supply chain, when everything is so integrated. That's why even for United States, uh, let's say you want to create an item and then you have to have the material first, right? Let's put it like the ingredients first. And sometimes that ingredients will come from mainland China. That's the tricky part right now. It's a very surprising that uh, right now the Chinese start to realize like, hey, I can weaponize this. If I stop supplying the United States certain items, then of course you cannot have like maximum effectiveness in production, and of course your clients will have problem because this is like markets, right? Defense markets. So there's like supply, demand, availability, this kind of things.
And U.S. arms sales are frequently described as politicized, often facing delays or cancellation. So it is volatility driven primarily by fear of the diplomatic fallout with China, or are there are bureaucratic factors within Washington contributing to the slowdown?
Regarding the politicization of like Taiwanese issue, I might see this quite different than other scholar, because uh, no matter you want to describe like what is the independent, like it's not only coming from Taiwanese sides. Of course, like in here, so many people try their best not to crossing the line, but at the same time, independence also come from the interpretation across the strait, what they interpret as going to the direction, or because crossing the line or not, sometimes even though in this side they say like, oh no, I'm not crossing the line, but if that side say it like, oh no 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 no, you crossed the line, brother, then like it's the tricky part. That's the politicization getting worse. It's getting worse.
And China views the arms transfer not merely as military aid, but as part of the de jure independence. So, how do you
Hmm.
see this specific interpretation by Beijing raise the stakes for any nation attempting to sell defensive equipment to Taiwan, including European, not only United States, some European countries, maybe Japan or South Korea or any country from the any part of the world, how it will be seen by Beijing.
If you check like a speech, I think like official statement from the spokesperson or from like the Xi Jinping himself, he keep saying, or they keep saying about like, oh, alliances is bad. Uh, they have the term like 冷战思维. Like my Chinese is not so good, but I think 冷战思维 is something like, hey, you have Cold War mentality. Like don't do that. Like let's keep like coexist, and you don't cross my line, you don't disturb me. Like we live in globalized world. Let's trade, let's do business. But this Cold War mentality is like bad for like all of the
And
sides. So
simply say,
arms
do not,
transfers is that.
yes, do
Yeah.
not interfere interference of
Hmm.
my internal affairs.
Yeah, and arms transfer is disturbing.
Yes, it's a biggest issue. It's not like another part of the trade.
Yeah, and they have like neighbors. I mean, in this case, I mean the Chinese has neighbors, which is like U.S. ally, and there's like modernization involving United States. It's 100%, and they reacted in the past. If you remember, there's like South Korean case during, I think
2017
during,
Tahad, deployment of the Tahad.
yeah, during President Park Geun-hye. I think they really really unhappy, and that's not even towards them. That's towards like another threat, but because the electromagnetic sites, yeah, the radar is touching China mainland territory. They're really unhappy about that. The punishment is quite severe, to be honest. Even though the Koreans successfully negotiate in the end, uh, but still, it's quite severe, because I got this from the Korean scholars in Taiwan, that the Chinese punish, Lotte Corporation, right? The one that like having supermarket business, department store business. The reason the Beijing punish them very severe is because apparently the land to put the TAT system belongs to Lotte. So was that they make sure that Lotte learn it the hard way.
And of course, the Taiwan case will be totally different than the South Korea's one. Chinese
Yeah.
approach will be,
Hmm.
we see that how the Chinese approach was harsh toward the Tahad deployment on the South Korea, but it will be more different than the Taiwanese case.
In here also, it's okay. The similarity will be they will use like economic leverage. That's like very imperative. Agriculture product is so, I mean, it's so easy with like, like, hey, you fail to fulfill the standard, or they have like new standard for import, and then the moment you change the rule, the farmers have to pay the price. And yeah, we have let's consider this. You have a neighbor, 1.4 billion people consume a lot of agriculture product. The moment they say stop, it's gonna have consequences.
And Aswin, just let me jump another question. Taiwan is converting this defense posture towards an asymmetric approach to offset China's capabilities. For a general audience, do you see this shift require a completely different class of weaponry, or is it primarily a change in military doctrine?
Okay, so this is like quite okay. This is quite tricky. Uh, if you check official document by Ministry of National Defense in Taipei, they usually update like every 2 years, and they try to change the doctrine since 2019. However, uh, of course, in military, you have to change from the doctrine first. You change the doctrine, and then everything below it will change. However, this is a democratic society, right? So you will have someone retired, and then you replace, or you have new president, and then the new president is gonna choose the person that they trust. And then if the person, let's say the Ministry of Defense on the Chief of General Staff, have different thinking about that, it will change. For example, like if you check 2019 to 2021, they have changing leadership in military level. The Chief of General Staff is already a different person. And the if the successor, they don't want to do that, and they're gonna change. And then you have right now going here, and then you have the new person. Oh, this is like good idea, to, because we cannot compete with mainland China item per item, so we have to use different implement different approach. So it's not so asymmetric in Taiwan is keep changing. I will say, like it's not like continue. It's not like long last. It will like change, and it's debate, to be honest, because the definition, for example, like submarine. Some people say submarine is asymmetric. Another expert will say submarine is not asymmetric. So it's also like very very diverse perspective.
And you mentioned, I think you mentioned an important point. You said the general staff was changed, and when someone in high ranking or important position changing in military, it required to change its blows. And from here, I want to ask. Most recently, there was a fourth plenum happened in China, just the other side of the strait, and China also experienced the similar issues. Many generals were replaced, and someone changed, and even some part of the CMC now feel became the left. That there is no person in this position. Do you see this will affect also in the Taiwan's situation, or will you have any comment?
Regarding the changing personnel, I will say changing personnel, right? Uh, First thing first is civil military relation in China is different than in democratic societies. Uh, Marxist Leninist military will follow the party guidance. And
Now we have another tech experience, technical issues. I hope the Aswin will join me soon. Maybe his internet connection has any problem, or I don't know. Just let me wait whether the Aswin will join us again or not. Yes, he's coming back.
oh,
Yes,
I'm so
Aswin.
sorry. Like,
Okay.
is it like disconnected?
Yeah, yes, disconnecting. No problem. Just you can go ahead from the point you left. Recently, you said
Is it
the
recovered?
structure.
Recovered?
Yeah, yes, recovered. Could you hear me now?
Okay, okay. I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
You
So
said
like, yeah,
you
I
said
think,
political and military
uh,
structure of the China is totally different
yep,
than Taiwan.
yep. So recently, in mainland China, yeah, first thing first, you have like inside the Communist Party, you have Central Military Commission. The chairman of this institution is Xi Jinping himself, and then you have vice chairman, two of them. And recently, you will see in the news that one of the vice chairmen, someone very close with President Xi, got removed from his position. Even he got expelled from the Communist Party, I believe.
Yes, yes. Hai
And
Weidong. And
yeah, yeah. Um, People shocked because General He is considered someone very close to President Xi. If you check, like since 2013, I believe, usually President Xi will purge someone that got appointed by his predecessor. But recently, it's the people that he himself appoint. What's the effect on Taiwan? Uh, this is only me. This is me. Like other expert, PLA expert will have different opinion. But for me, how can you have readiness if your leadership is in a turmoil. Uh, we don't know months from now who will get removed. So in strategic planning, in uh, it's not it's not a good thing for what's that, for the People Liberation Army, especially if you purge like nine, I think, yeah, nine,
Yeah,
and these
around
people
nine,
are
I
like
think.
decision
Even Li
makers, like
Shengfu, Lin Shengfu, also one of them, among one of them, is the Minister of National Defense, I think, and many other high-ranking military officer was removed or replaced.
yeah, but it doesn't mean it suddenly become chaotic armed forces, or let's put in a simple way, like it doesn't mean suddenly it become weak. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean they suddenly become what's that, it suddenly become weak. It's just uh like I said, this is Marxist military, right? So you are top down military. It's not like if you compare with like Israeli military or US military, when you have spread it chain of command. This is like very top down, like rigid structured military. So if there's something happen in the top, of course it's gonna affect the chain of command.
Aswin, are these changes in Beijing, how seeing from Taiwan, to the Taiwanese decision makers, seems these changes are a sign of preparation of invasion by Beijing?
Sorry, can you
Uh,
repeat?
I said these important changes happen in after the fourth plenum in the Chinese military ranks can be seen from the Taipei as a sign of invasion or preparation for invasion to Taiwan.
Invasion, I have quite different opinion actually, on like based on my experience, like interacting with like military officers here. So here's the invasion is really closely associated with amphibious invasion, right? You cross the Taiwan Strait, you try to land here, you drop your marines or you drop like your like everything here, and then you start your movement, something like Normandy, Battle of Normandy, or landing of Sicily, like something like that. First thing first, that's not easy. That's not easy. Like I think you need no less than 800,000 personnel, uh, with all the risk. Like I think I will argue that amphibious landing is like the most difficult operation among so many military operations. The problem is like you cannot land just randomly in Taiwan. You need like certain area to land. And let's say you can land in Taiwan, they call it red beach, red beaches. In Taiwan, they call it red beaches. Uh, the last time I heard, it's around 3 to 6 red beaches like available. In the past, you have like more than a dozen, but right now it's less than 5, I think. So in this spot, and then how many people you can land there? One brigade, two brigade, like uh, because if you only land very minimum number, and then you will easily get obliterated by Taiwanese defense, you know. So landing here is also like not easy, really not easy.
Yes,
Remember, this is a
there is a
military, never
terrain. Also, there is a
fight war.
terrain problem.
Yeah, terrain problem. Like some of them gone because of like you know, the global warming, the rising tide. Some of them is already built to become like uh infrastructure, so it's not easy to land. And then like this armed forces never fight wars since Cold War times, right? Since Sino-Vietnamese war, they don't have experience like doing. I mean, you can train, you can practice, exercise, practice, but doing the real operation will be very, very. different reality, right?
And seasons also should be taking account, like a winter
Yes,
time or
yes, yes,
typhoon and other
yes, yes.
things.
And then you never test like how you call it? You technically they never test it in the real situation. Uh, if I can compare, like if you remember February 2022, when the Russians started, it's a very rusty, right? It's super rusty, like maneuver, like logistic is not like, it is not effective. Everything is just so rusty. So the PLA is also having the same issues here, but I will never discount their ability to cause damage. I will never discount that. It's still an armed forces that can wreak havoc, cause a lot of damages. Because I always see this like win or lose, damage still damage, right? I mean, no matter how hard like many nation try to resist invaders, but still they will have to what's that suffer certain level of damages. And the PLA still based on like modernization and everything, it's still an armed forces that can cause damage.
Okay, now let me go into another topic: the supply chains. Supply chains also is important. The topic between the triangle of the Taipei, Beijing, and the United States. The vulnerabilities in supply chains, and such as the U.S. dependencies on the Chinese components are often exacerbated by the threat of the Chinese economic retaliation against suppliers. How do you see these intervened economic and logistical challenges specifically impede Taiwan's ability to enhance its self-defense capacity?
I will start from Taiwan, Beijing first. Because you already mentioned asymmetric, right? Many people believe right now that one of the example of asymmetric weapons is was it unmanned system. And I will how you call it? Like in Taiwan, there is a narrative about non-PRC supply chain. Let's build our own made in Taiwan, our what's that unmanned system without any Chinese supply chain, without any Chinese component. It's already caused a little bit disturbance there. The amount of items, I mean the unmanned systems Taiwan built is still less than Ukraine. It's ironic, because Ukraine has less technology compared to Taiwan, and Taiwan production capacity is way more than Ukraine. But there are so many components. It's kind of like made in China. So the moment you lose that, first thing first, you have like rising prices. Second, you have less output. So if you expect in 1 year you produce less than 100,000, that's not enough. It's really, that's not enough. And that's Taiwan, Beijing. The second is the global supply chain. I was a student back then when I am so surprised. This is not about drones. This is a missile in Taiwan, made in Taiwan missile. They try to do maintenance for the optic part. If I'm not mistaken, it's the optic part. They sent to a company in Switzerland, Leica. And then Leica facility apparently is in Qingdao, if I'm not mistaken, in northern China. It was quite a sensation. Like even though after the missile come back to Taiwan, people check it, and there's no malware or it's clean, but still it's like shocking. And then, for example, like for drones, like Taiwanese purchase items from United States. There's a case, Skydio. Skydio is a U.S. corporation, U.S. company. The problem is Skydio apparently purchase materials from China. So when China uh, stop supplying certain component to Skydio, it will affect Taiwan. It's already affecting Taiwan. National Fire Agency in Taiwan is using Skydio items, Skydio drones. So in Taiwan, you can say like, okay, let's not using any PRC related component. However, how about the Taiwanese friends? How about like other state that wants to help Taiwan? Like, are they like, I will use this. Like, are you cheating on me? If you put like boyfriend, girlfriend, like, are you cheating on me? Like, yeah, something like that.
And when we're looking at procurement patterns under the successive Taiwanese administrations, do we see different political parties handling these external pressures differently, or does the geopolitical reality enforce similar outcomes regardless of who is in power, like Kuomintang or DPP?
During okay, people will say that the more you come here, like after 2018, 2020, the budget is rising because it's DPP administration. They try to modernize more, and I will argue that in successive, the trend will keep rising. I mean, even during the KMT tenure, they try to upgrade some items. Like the F-16 is one of them. I will put like all the party uh,
At
in,
the same level?
if you put at the same level. This is not only in Taiwan. This is like everywhere in this planet. When you start to purchase something, there is also political factor there. So sometimes you know that, let's say you're a president, you enter the office, and then your ministry, your expert, your analyst give you briefing. Hey, this is our threat. Maybe we should build like this way with this doctrine. However, many leadership, especially in democracy, they prefer to purchase something with glamorous narrative because it will be look better in front of voters. Okay, let's purchase this expensive item, which looks so sexy, politically very, very improving. Like, oh my God, you purchase F-35. Oh my God, you build submarines. You purchase like very sophisticated uh, missile system. But is it like useful? We don't know, right? Sometimes it happened. It happened not only in Taiwan, it's everywhere. It's not only here. So purchasing itself is political asset for any political party or any candidates, executive candidates. So it will become a good narrative during election period, especially during election period. So sometimes like uh, we cannot say like, okay, these people they don't know. I mean, I genuinely believe like they know. It's just you have a political problem, right? Because in democracy, of course, you want to win election.
But still, how the dynamics of internet dynamics, like the Kuomintang more close approach to the China and DPP is more independence aligned party. Still, does this approach not affected to the policies?
In democracy, of course, every time you have decision, you need approval from legislative, right? Of course, at this point, you need. Okay, Taiwan problem is not only military. Let's put it that way. Like the problem is not only military. You have slow growth economy. You have housing problem that for decades already hand down, especially for young people. So you must go with very, very, very flexible political bargaining to get approval. Right now, the DPP, even though they are in controlling the executive, but in legislative, they are basically they cannot do anything. And for them to modernize, or at least modernize in their way, the way that they propose, you need to negotiate with the other political party, right? And back again, this is like issues that affecting election. So are you okay? Let's say right now you already have like 2.5. Let's assume 2.5, and then suddenly you want to double 5%. I mean, that's of course like very bad for like, especially like you're gonna have election, every certain cycle you're gonna have election. This is gonna be bad. So defense sometimes must be sacrificed, and political party will go for other, because budget is always limited.
And also
That's
in
but
in
yeah,
many parts of the economy and the trade, the Taiwan still maybe uh, significantly depend on China, as
yep,
you
true.
mentioned earlier.
Hmm.
This
Hmm.
also, I think, playing an important role in the recent situation.
I mean, I'm not like economist, so I cannot say much about that. But if you're trading with someone, let's say 40% from your total trade, and then you suddenly want to cut 3%, it's gonna cost you something significantly, even though no matter how hard you try to diversify that, or let's say you want to find alternative or replacement, it's not
And
happen
even
in
maybe
one night,
maybe
right?
yes, maybe even it causes to some political parties to lose their ground, their votes, their
Yep.
supporters.
Mm. And in Taiwan, next year is gonna be local election. Sometimes, because like, okay, let's assume uh 2 years local election, and then like you have like another, in the next 2 years you have like national election, and in every election cycle you need narrative. Uh,
You have to
that's the beauty
thinking
of
about
democracy, right?
the satisfaction of the people,
Yeah.
how to satisfy
And
your voters, your supporters.
yeah, people complain like, hey, my housing situation is not improved, and then like you want to purchase like these tanks. Are you even serious? And then like hey, my electric subsidy is like damaged, and then you want to purchase new jet fighter. Are you joking me? Like, yeah, that's like I said, like defense is important, but uh sometimes it's not easy to push it to the voters.
Yeah, it is an important dilemma sometimes when we come to the
Hmm.
satisfaction of the people. The defense and the missiles or chips maybe should be pushed back at the
Yep.
second or third level.
Yep.
And
True.
I ask me if external pressures have successfully impeded the Taiwan's ability to shape its military posture independently. Does this suggest that Taiwan has effectively lost sovereignty over its own long-term defense planning? How would you evaluate this?
I will say this. Republic of China Armed Forces is not weak military. We keep looking this at like small or dwarf, because you keep comparing with mainland China. If you check, let's say you check double I double S military balance. If you check item per item, I guarantee you, wow, this is powerful. Let's say the simple way you compare with Southeast Asian military, Taiwan military. Oh my God, I was so surprised. Let's say you count the number of jets, the number of like uh
Tanks,
navy naval vessels.
navies.
It's very was that it's huge. It's just because we keep compare this with Japan, we keep compare this with mainland China. Of course, it's gonna look like very small, but this is like very like strong. Yeah, but back again, the problem is like they have like way bigger threat, right? And then Taiwan has its own domestic uh, defense industry. Taiwan produce quite a good item. I will say it's quite a good item. Xiongfang missile, Tiancong missile. Taiwan has ability to produce was that sometimes in Taiwan there's this trend. If United States refuse to sell items, Taiwan will produce until they can, be able to create an item almost the same quality. For example, like, oh, we don't sell you F-16. Suddenly the Taiwanese create the Chingguo jet fighter. Not the same, but almost the same. Suddenly the Americans is like, okay, I'm gonna give you something. So Taiwanese itself, they have like good defense industry. The
But
problem is back
when
again, the enemy is way bigger. The enemy modernized in a very fast way. Even though if you see many items in Chinese arsenal are prototype, but who knows 10 years from now what's gonna happen. And Taiwan still have to improve in cross domain how you call it, cross domain warfare, because one thing I learned about the People Liberation Army is they try to be the good in joint operation, multi-domain operation. Like they will integrate so many layers. Let's say air, space, cyber at the same time. Yeah, Taiwanese still have to develop their military going to that direction. And maybe if I must say the weakness, it's a very platform based mindset. If I may say, they're very platform. They are very platform based, because there's like capability based build up, and then you have like scenario based build up, right? But back again, you try to change doctrine. That's not easy, It's a very hard. But at least Taiwan has the technology. Taiwan has the capacity, for research and development, for production. At least they have. So at least they don't have to start from zero.
but this raises another questions for me. If the Taiwan has this capacity, and when at times sometimes faces the cancellation or blockade from the United States or president or the Congress, why Taiwan simply doesn't produce by its own self when they got rejection or they got delayment of the delivery of the some purchases? What they simply doesn't rely on its own defense industry or boost produced by itself? Is there any obstacle, internal obstacle? When you have capacity to
Obstacle, I
building
will
building
say, quantity. Quantity, like the number of items you can build per on annual basis, of course, is limited. This is
you
not a
mean for mass
big.
production or
Yes, yes. But don't doubt their quality, because, for example, Taiwan is able to produce their own corvettes. It's a stealth corvette. I visited the shipyard. They they work quite good. Not quite good. They work very good. Like, not many country can produce like their own corvette, like capable corvette. I already mentioned, right, Chingguo jet fighter. So Taiwanese already have in their air force arsenal their own indigenous jet fighter. The engine is American engine, but at least if they need maintenance, you don't have to send the component to United States.
it's very
Taiwanese
important
successfully,
for earning
yeah,
time?
but maybe for the quantity is not much. The quantity is not what do you expect, because back again, relative to mainland China, of course, in mainland China you have this dominance in manufacture, right? For example, like drones, like Taiwan is like produce drones like very dwarf comparing to mainland China. Mainland China drone, if I'm not mistaken, 80% in this world, because drone is quite tricky, It is military or civilian, because the drone
It's
is
a kind of
very,
W's, huh?
yeah, in Ukraine, like lethal drone is civilian. uh
It
Was
can
that?
be used for military purpose as well.
Yes. So the back again, the Taiwanese, I observed that they try their best, but back again, the threat come from a very very uh, powerful manufactured power. Uh, Actually, this is good. One of the reason the Russian can do all these salvo and coordinated strikes with one-way drone, because if you check since 2023, the warfare is quite changing, right, in Ukraine. It's not maneuver anymore. It's just, like Muhammad Ali versus Joe Frazier. You just like bumping, bumping, bumping. You send suicide drone like all day long. Sometimes it can involve hundreds, like 200, 500. It's possible because the Russian drones using Chinese component. CSIS released a report. IIS also released a report. There are no less than 100 components, uh, starting from the antenna, starting from the engine. It's come from China. So Chinese capacity to produce is mind blowing, really mind blowing.
And this is one of important the component of the wartime. When you don't have mass production, you will be lost.
I think the lesson we get from Ukraine versus Russia is uh, quantity has its own quality, right? I mean, it's not new, but it just happened in 2020, so it's very recent. Was that quantity itself? I mean, who doubt American product quality? Who doubt that? But can you imagine, like one missile, surface to air missile? Let's assume a million US dollar, like 1 million, 2 million, hypothetically, to intercept items around 50 to 80,000 US dollar. That's not, the opportunity cost is like, that's not a good reality.
And
Yeah, quantity is back. Quantity become a new thing. That's why uh, electronic warfare become important. For example, like you want to have ability to shut down hundreds of drones by one single microwave shot, for example. How you cripple the whole uh, internet command, so you can shut down the communication between the items and the controller. That become very important because the Chinese themselves, if you check, uh, let's say the defense white paper, or if you check US report regarding Chinese military development, it's always, they call it like system destruction warfare. So you, rather than destroy item per item, you want to destroy the whole communication system, the whole network. You disrupt the network and then the items will not function. It become a new to-do
reality.
list. Yeah, I will say new to-do list for like every military in this international global theater.
And I think now that the Taiwan situation highlights the difficulties small states face when modernizing defense under the external constraints. This is not for Taiwan, for many other countries, even the
Yeah.
middle power countries in the world. Are these challenges unique to Taiwan? Ambiguous status, or do they reflect a broader trend for smaller nations cage between great powers and great power competitions? What will be the fate of the nations in the similar position? Of course, the Taiwan's case is unique, but the other countries, how will affect?
For Taiwan, I keep making jokes to my Japanese friend, oh my God, it's so nice to be you. You want an item, United States will provide you the item. Uh, because let's say uh, you want IG system, Taiwan is not gonna get it. Like I seriously doubt that. Taiwan is very unique comparing to like other small states. If you say small states like Singapore wants the best item, United States will consider selling it to the Singaporean. Taiwan is uh, specific specifically Taiwan has very unique. But back again, it also rely on Washington because if you compare in Far East, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, the Philippines, even if you say Japan and South Korea is all US ally, but the US also have limitation for Korea. So the Koreans have items in their wish list. Washington will say no, and at the same time, the Japanese is gonna get it. This is also like how the US manage this alliance. I think if we go a little bit like to the Middle East, right, you will see right now there's a narrative about like, hey, can Saudi Arabia get items as good as what the Israeli gets? So back again, this is not only from the consumer but the producers as well. Like how the leadership in Washington, they gonna manage all of this because they are the one who will make the last word about like, okay, I'm gonna approve this, I'm gonna approve to this country but not that country. So yeah, that's the
Yes, they
that's the
they
thing.
have to keeping the balances of power. The structure should be maintained. Huh?
Yeah, how you call it, uh you know how you call it, like balance of relation or something like that, because like there's so many consumer, in this regard, like there's so many consumer. Like my country, Indonesia, also purchase like certain US items, right? And of course, it's not gonna be exactly the same item like real ally country, right? And here's the thing, like it or not, there's no formal alliance between United States and Taiwan. Like it or not, you can call ally, you can call partner, and everything. They don't have like joint training, they don't have like formal document, like, because if you see like United States and Japan, for example, that's different. You have like agreement, and even formal ally, if you check Japan National Security Strategy, Japan National Defense Strategy 2022, they want more, they demand more. And yeah, US also has its own capacity, right?
And
Like
also, the
this is
country have a waiting list, given their importance or their partnerships level of alliances. They have to wait.
yeah, because it's not like this like if you do online shopping, of course, like you also like do waiting, right? And that's simple item. Can you imagine very complicated item with like all the technology? Because you send one item, it doesn't mean you get it all. For example, uh, if your country have F-16, I guarantee you there are certain component you cannot access. And if that component is broken, you have to send it to United States because they are the only one who knows how to deal with that. Was it like arms purchasing is tricky. There are like certain technology that like the producer is not as generous as, like, I mean, I know you are my friend, you're my ally, but sorry, this is my competitive advantage. I'm not gonna sell this. I'm not as generous as that, and you need was that creativity to deal with that. Israel is a good case. The items that the Israeli got, they have like modification inside the jets. If you use the Air Force as a case study, like they purchase the item and then like they do modification inside that, because the US will not sell like uh they will sell, but the technology, there are certain aspect there they're not gonna let you access that, even though you are the ally.
And given the escalation of Sino-American strategic tension, is the area of purchasing large-scale traditional platforms ending for Taiwan in favor of the smaller, more politically portable asymmetric systems? How will you answer this question?
If Taiwan wants to purchase, do it now before the blockade or something worse happen, because this is an island. Like it or not, it's an island. There's gonna be limitation when something, when your sea lines and your transportation access getting close, there's no chance to purchase. So they have to do it right now. uh fill your warehouse right now. Was that like do the purchasing right now, because there are so many conflicts right now, right? There's so many geopolitical tension here and there, and everybody demanding the items. Like, for example, there's a tomahawk, for example, tomahawk missile. Everybody wants it. Not only in Pacific, right? There's like countries in Middle East wants it. There are Europeans also wants it. So there are like urgency for stockpiling right now. If Taiwan wants to do it, like they have to do it right now.
And Aswin, lastly, will you have any comment about the recent developments coming from the Japanese side and the speech of the Sanoya Takaichi over the Taiwan and the Taiwan seems by Japan in the current Japan's administration. This is as a part of the security of the Japan. How do you see accept the Japan, Taiwan, Beijing, and the United States triangle? Now there is another position between Japan, Taiwan, and Beijing. How will affect the geopolitics of East Asia, and how do you see the United States will involve? To what extent? Because on the one hand, in the Busan summit, the President Trump and the Xi Jinping meet in Busan in Seoul. They did some agreement on some semiconductor or rare earths, and now the Japanese Prime Minister raising another concern over the Beijing's influence. Would you have any comment on, of this new development?
For Prime Minister Takaichi, here's the thing: I'm not foreign policy analytical person, so I'm pretty sure she has reason to do it. Like, and uh, I think she knows what's the consequences for behaving like that. But for Japan, Taiwan is precious. If you check defense white paper, national security strategy, Taiwan is a big deal for Japan. Taiwan is like affecting Japanese strategic posture a lot. If you check the document in 2022, there's a, I mean, I cannot mention like exact wording, but my interpretation is Japan wants to be able to neutralize threat before it reaches Japanese soil. And Taiwan is one of them. So there's like Taiwan, there's North Korea, there's like Korean Peninsula, there's Taiwan. So the contingency for Japan is like this area
Urgent.
and Taiwan, yeah, urgency. So Taiwan is one of them. So this is, was that you cannot separate the Japanese people. Of course, we will keep looking at U.S., China, U.S., China, but for Taiwan uh, issues, you cannot discount the Japanese. Uh, my experience with tabletop exercise or war game, there's always Japan team. So there's like U.S., China, and also Tokyo. Uh, because Taiwanese issues is a huge strategic consequences for Japan. And
How do you
uh,
see from this point, if China, let's say, successfully invaded and incorporated Taiwan into mainland, and successfully breached the first island chains, what will be the consequences for Japan? And or on other side, what is the Japanese concerns? Japan's will be encircled, or what
wow,
is the main concern here?
we're talking hypothetical, yeah, here. This is very hypothetical scenario, right? What if Taiwan fall, right?
Yes, and this is the
Wow.
cornerstone of the
Mm-hmm.
US defense in East Asia.
Yeah. So in the north part of Taiwan, there are some islets that belongs to the Japanese, right?
Like Yonaguni
So
Island, and
yeah,
now
like
Japan is
it
trying to
will,
fortify and deploy missile.
yeah. And uh, if you go northern again, there is Ryukyu Archipelago, right? Okinawa and many U.S. bases is there. Right? There's like U.S. facility there. Uh, and then you have because that's why you call it chain, right? Like there's like chain, and then like one of the chain
And the US
broken
also
there.
try to fortify at the south, on the Filipino side.
The Philippines try their best to fortify. I think right now, Marcos is just going. He just stepped on the gas pedal like 100%. They want to put like missile system. They want to put like many denial capability, especially in the northern part of the Philippines. However, uh, how you call it? Like the Chinese itself, I don't see the Chinese. Like they want to do drastic. Like at least for now. At least for now. Don't get me wrong. 10 years from now,
But
it's gonna be different. But for
on,
now, I don't see the PLA have ability to you know to go like uh too far to go the geographic. I mean, in geographic term, like distance to go like distance. Like I don't see that. Like
open the
we have
wider Pacific,
sorry.
open to the wider Pacific region, Pacific Ocean. But
Yeah,
at the same time, the fortification of this island, first island chains, or like Yonaguni or Ishigaki Island, uh, it means for Beijing like a prison, you know.
and if you check the last military parade, September, right? If I'm not mistaken, there's a military parade in Beijing. It was a huge military
Yes,
parade.
yes.
Uh, the Chinese rely more on long range. I mean, this is more or less like tea leaves reading, but I think many military transformation experts describe that as, or they rely more in long strike capabilities. They will strengthen the anti-access area denial. They increasing the, how you call it, integration between manned, unmanned platform, but they haven't tried to, for example, going for like, oh, this is my marine, my marine landing in this island and then took over here and there. We don't see that. This is like technology. how you call it, like very engineering, mechanized military. The new items, if you check, for example, like Sichuan, like type 76, yeah, 0076, it's interpreted by many experts as a platform that can carry so many unmanned systems going. So for them itself, I don't see. I mean, they of course they want, like, they have ambition to go far, to go distance for sure. Blue water navy, like longer reach, but at least for now, I haven't seen that, at least for now. But we can see in the upcoming exercise, for example, if they conduct another exercise, we can observe more. But of course, like right now for the first island chain, everybody is just arming themselves. If you check Japan, like I said, the document 2022, there's a document, right? A military build up document, the list of items they want to procure until 2027, and then the list of items the self-defense force wants to possess in 2032. Of course, they're gonna fortify. Of course, the Philippines gonna fortify. But the PLA itself, uh, because many of their items is prototype, so I think, me personally, I want to see, like, later, like, I mean, of course, at now my answer will be, it's prototype, it's not tested. But we can observe that, like, if they conducted like new exercise, or like whatever's gonna happen in the upcoming 2-3 years, then we can assess in different, there's gonna be different assessment.
Yes, just as a last questions back to my Japan's related
Mm-hmm.
questions. Now we can see that I think Japan's uh, with the Sana Takaichi, I think Japan's at least foreign policy directions changed towards Beijing from strategic ambiguity to the strategic clarity. How
Mm-hmm.
this approach will affect the Beijing's and how will be interpreted, because the Beijing's first response was harsh, and the consul general in Osaka, Beijing's consul general in Osaka, they made some strong comment. How do you see this bilateral relations will evolve to some other level?
One thing we missing here is also Tokyo Washington relation, right? Because I believe that the Americans will have their own demand as well to Prime Minister Takaichi, because I think, of course, if you expect from the Chinese, they're gonna be tough. However, this is also Washington. You cannot discount Washington DC from Pacific affairs. So Americans will have their own expectation for her at the same time. So I think, how you call it, like, uh, because we dealing with this nationalistic leadership, right? uh Prime Minister Takeichi, of course, like, I don't see her suddenly apologize for, like, I don't see that. And CCP being CCP, so we cannot expect suddenly they become softer, especially because, like it or not, there is a bad history, right? This is like bitter memories uh that hasn't been healed, I guess, if I may say. So it will take time until they will be more relaxed, because we cannot expect situation become softer very soon. I think during the G20 meeting, they don't talk to each other, right? Representative from both countries, I think they don't talk to each other. But I think, I don't know, except if suddenly uh, Tokyo say something again. But at least for now, it will become bitter. I think for now it will be very bitter. For now, it's gonna be, oh my god. Like sometimes I was thinking like, was that nobody doubt Japan commitment on Taiwan? You know, everybody know that Japan have huge interest in Taiwan. So why you have to do this? But back again, like I believe she has her own consideration. At least was that it will be was that considered before she did, and she has to answer to Donald Trump. Like was that there's gonna be three ways. Yeah, I will put like there's not only Tokyo, Beijing, but also like Tokyo, Washington, and of course like Beijing, Washington. So this is like triangle.
Thank you very much, Aswin, for these nice insights and comments, and you
Yeah, yeah.
joining me on Taipei.
Thank you so much for having me. Like I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
No, thank you, really for this such great conversations, and from a place that now the main point of the world. I think all the decision makers of the region and even the world politicians, they focusing on these topics because it's there is a South China Sea and a trillion of the dollar of trade flow coming from this region. Something happening in the Taiwan Strait will affect not only Taiwan, Beijing, or Japan. Will of course affect any single point around the world, in Africa, in Europe, in United States, and that is why the a comment coming from the Taipei is like a primary source. That's why thank you very much again for joining my show and give the
My
insights to
pleasure.
my
My pleasure.
audiences.
Likewise. Likewise.
Okay,
Likewise.
okay.
Thank
Have
you
a
so
good
much.
night
Thank
in
you so much.
Taipei. You're
You too.
welcome,
You too. You too.
and thank you for my audiences who are with us until end of the show. Please don't forget to subscribe to channel and hit the notification bell for our next live stream shows about the global power dynamics.